Hey guys, welcome back to FHC Tactical. I'm Steve. What we've got on tap today, well, it's all about the speed. Last week, we did a gel test with a couple of compensated pistols, and again, we had several comments claiming that the velocities that we quoted for those comp pistols would be invalid due to the effective barrel length. So today, we're going to test the theory of the effective barrel length in relation to velocity stopping where the rifling ends. One of the most popular theories that I hear quoted on YouTube and other places is that wherever your rifling ends and your port or compensator begins is where your velocity stops increasing. That's simply not the case. All of the built-up pressure from the rapidly expanding gas in the barrel doesn't magically exit through the opening for the compensator. In fact, I believe the majority of the gas will continue down the barrel with the projectile. Also, with the rifling stopping, but a portion of the barrel continuing, the added friction against the projectile from the rifling ends, which would lead to the possibility of added velocity. The effects the pressure has on the projectile definitely change at the compensator, but they do not stop. My guess is all of the rapidly changing dynamics do affect the velocity slightly, negative, but nowhere near the amount that some would believe. We're going to put that theory to the test today on the range, and here's the setup. We will be testing 3 different pistols with 3 different ammo selections with varying weight and type to get a solid cross-section of data to determine how much velocity is lost. First, let's look at the 3 different ammo selections. We will use the 124 grain Blazer Brass full metal jacket from CCI. Next, we will have some MagTech 115 grain jacketed hollow points. And lastly, we'll use the 147 grain Federal HST plus P hollow points that we recently tested. As far as the pistols, we will start with the Springfield Echelon full-size pistol with a 4.5-inch barrel. Next, we will test the Springfield full-size pistol with a 4.5-inch barrel and the built-in compensator. Now, with this pistol, the rifling in the barrel stops where the compensator begins, which is roughly a ½ inch from the end of the barrel, making the effective barrel length for this pistol that many talk about 4 inches. Then we will test the Springfield Echelon compact pistol, which has a 4-inch barrel. We will then be able to see just how accurate the effective barrel length theory is. So guys, that's the setup, that's the test. Let's get to the range and see if everything that I just said is complete garbage or it has a ring of truth to it. All right, it's about that time. First one up is going to be from the Blazer Brass 124 grain. And the first pistol is going to be the Springfield Echelon 4.0. Everything's rolling. Let's see what she does. $1,063, $1,065, $1,062.7, $1,084, and $1,070. That is 5. Okay, next one up is going to be the full-size Echelon with no comp. Make sure we're rolling. Everything's set up. All right. Here we go. $1,105, $1,109, $1,102, $1,100, $1,103.7. Okay, average velocity for the full size is 1104.4. So we're right at, I think it was 1070 with the 4.0, 1104 with the full size 4.5. Moment of truth here. Here we go, full size comp version of the Springfield Echelon. Here we go. Everything's rolling. 1096. 1108. 1095. 1095. 1087. All right, next up is going to be the MagTech 115 grain jacketed hollow point. First one up is the 4.0 Echelon. Make sure we're rolling. We are. Everything's swapped over. Let's see what we get. 1148, 1139.8, 1143, 1142, and 1156. That is 5. Average velocity on that one is 1145.9. We'll call it 1146. We'll get that full size up here, see what she does. All right, next one up is the full size echelon, no comp. Everything rolling. See what we get. 1182, 1192.6, 1194.9, 1194.6, and 1189.3. Average velocity on that one is 1190.7. All right, here we go. Full size comped for the MagTech jacketed hollow point, 115 grain. Let's see what we get. 1174.9, 1167, 1180.4, 1194.2, and 1180. Average velocity on that one is 1179.5. We'll call it 1180. Okay, next one up for the Echelon series is going to be the Federal HST 147 grain. This is the plus P version that we just tested the other day. And the first one up is going to be the Echelon 4.0. Got everything swapped over. Let's see what she does. 1022, 1019, 1009.5, 1032, 1029.2. That is 5. Average velocity on that one was 1022. All right, next up for the HST is the full size Echelon, no comp. Here we go. 1049, 1058, 1044, 1042, and 1031. That is 5. Standard deviation of 8. Average velocity there is 1,045. If we remember, it wasn't a big velocity jump as we went up in barrel length there on our test. So I'd be curious to see how close that we get to either one of those, because there's only about 22 feet per second difference there. So we'll get the comp version loaded up. We'll see what she does. Okay, last one for the 147 grain HST plus P is the full size comped Echelon. I think we're ready to go. Let's see what we get. 1052, 1059, 1036, 1034, and 1046. Average velocity there is 1045.7. That is actually a little higher than what we got out of the non-comps. Standard deviation on that one, 9.3. So we're obviously within the margin of error there. So let's look at the data we got from the test. Let's look at the average velocity first from the Blazer Brass 124 grain full metal jackets. Compensated Echelon average velocity was 1,096.7. Now that was 26.7 above the 4.0 and 7.7 below the 4.5. If we move to the MagTech 115 grain comped Echelon velocity was at 1,179.5. That was 33.6 above the 4.0 and 11.2 below the 4.5. Then with the Federal HST 147 grain, the comped Echelon velocity was 1,045.7, which was 23.3 faster than the 4.0 and 0.8 feet per second faster than the 4.5. So strictly looking at the average velocities, we did see a slight downtick in performance with the comped version versus the full size. However, it was nowhere near the velocities that the 4.0 generated. But if we dig a little deeper into the numbers, it seems more like that difference had a lot to do with the extreme spread as well. The extreme spread for that comped pistol was generally at the top of the list between the three. And if we look at the extreme high and the extreme low for each test, you also see a pattern. With the Blazer 124 grain, the extreme high for the 4.5 was 1109 and the 4.5 comp pistol was 1108. The difference was the low reading, which is 1101 versus 1087. Again, with the MagTech 115 grain, you had a difference, 1182 for the non-comp and 1167 for the comp for the low reading. In both of these tests, the low reading for that 4.5 comp version was the outlier of the group. Then in the last test, the Federal HST 147 grain, the numbers between the two were almost identical. For the low side on the 4.5 was 1031 to 1058, and then for the comp version was 1034 to 1059. It appears the built-in compensator for this pistol affects the extreme spread more than the average velocity. The extreme spread rising slightly and velocities only sliding down slightly. All right, so what does all this mean? Well, we did see a negative effect both on velocity and extreme spread, but obviously the effective barrel length theory that's often referred to by so many didn't pan out. I will say this is just one test, and it's far from being enough to prove anything other than it's a more complicated discussion than some believe, and also each case will be different. The effect that a port or a compensator will have on velocity will vary greatly depending on size, design, location, and several other factors. But that's my thoughts. Let's hear yours as well. If you agree or disagree, leave us a comment below and tell us why. Also, so far, the only pistol caliber that we've tested in these have been the 9mm. But for our next test, we want to step outside that and do a Federal HST test for either the 45 ACP or the 40 S&W. We're going to leave it to you to decide. Leave us a comment below by simply saying 45 ACP or 40 Smith & Wesson. We'll let this poll go through Monday, January the 26th, and we'll total up the votes to see what we do. Again, I appreciate all of the feedback that we've gotten so far. If you found this video helpful, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure your notifications are turned on for all our future videos. And from everybody at FHC Tactical, God bless, get out and exercise your Second Amendment right. We'll catch you next time.